Hey everybody, Mr. Fritz here. I hope you've enjoyed coding this game so far. And the last video, or last few videos, we added a little bit of a randomness element to the game to make it seem like a little bit more realistic. And it's not just reading a printout of attacks, but we have this chance of missing, and we maybe added a little bit of pause to make it seem like it's flowing through time. And I want to ramp things up quite a bit in this next video. And I want to add different choices of weapons. So if we want to make this game more enjoyable, we would need to add some choice to the user, and we want to make it so that there's a little bit of difference in risk, and a user gets to choose their risk and make a choice in this fighting game. And I think the best way to do that is to choose a weapon. So we're going to add a good section of code here that all handles different types of weapons and what's going to happen as a result of a player choosing a specific weapon. Some of the code that we're going to see might be a little out of your reach, a little out of your comfort zone, but that's okay as long as you get it down. It should work. I'll put a link to the code, to my code, the final version, if you want to look at it for your own reference. But hopefully by the end of this video, you have added some choice to your game for the weapon for the player. So what I want to do is I want to begin by actually right after this beginning prompt, I'm going to actually add to this beginning prompt where we're not just saying, hey, welcome, what's your name, but I want to actually add a little bit of a weapon choice element. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, after this blank print statement, I'm going to print kind of almost like a menu screen, just throw a few dashes and say weapon choice, dash, dash, dash. And then what I want to do is I'll print which weapon would you like? And I'll give the user 3 options. So, and to format this a little bit nicely, I'll put a couple spaces, and then I'll bracket the A and say X. And this is kind of a convention in text-based games that means you can just enter in the letter A for your choice, or you can enter the whole word A, but this just is kind of signifying the key that I'm looking for is going to be A. I'm going to say X. I'll say more power, less accurate. And I'll do another weapon, 2 spaces, S for sword. I'll say that is less power, more accurate. Accurate. Oh, I forgot the quotation mark at the end of that one. And then I'll print mace. Then I'll say moderate power, moderate accuracy. Okay, and now next what I need to do is I'm going to prompt the user for their choice. So I kind of gave them their options, and now I'm going to ask for their choice. So let's make a variable, weapon choice. And that's going to equal the input. Let's put a few spaces here and say choice, give it another space. And so that should be formatted kind of nicely. And then the user will enter in either an A, an S, or an M. Or they can enter in a whole word or anything like that. So let's actually run this and make sure that I don't have any bugs so far. So what is your name? Mr. Fritz. Who's your enemy? Cousin It. Excellent. Prepare for battle. Weapon choice. This looks nice. It's a good layout. And I have axe, sword, mace. And right now nothing will happen, but I can at least use it. So that's good. I've not entered in any bugs to the system. Okay, that's good. Now let's going back to the code, let's actually handle that choice. So I want to do some different things based upon what the user types in. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to move that prepare for battle statement. I'm going to move this a little bit further below because now it doesn't really make sense that I ask for the name, the enemy, and then I say prepare for battle. That should kind of be after I choose the weapon. So I'm going to cut this and then I will paste it. Let's paste it down here, because I want to do some things in between the player choice of the weapon and when we actually start. Because this is kind of like the last thing that should be said before the gameplay begins. So now let's handle the weapon choice. So let's make a series of if statements. So if weapon choice bracket square bracket 0 dot lower equals A. Let me break down what I just typed. So weapon choice is the variable that we got from the user input, And what this bracket 0 does is it says, I want the first letter of that string. So the user is going to input something. Because I'm using just the input function, I'm not wrapping it with an int, it is going to be entered in as a string, and that 0 says, I want the character at index 0. For all intents and purposes, it means the first letter. And then what this dot lower does, it says, I want to make that lowercase. So even if it was a capital or a lowercase put in, it's going to force it into a lowercase, and I'm comparing with the lowercase a. So what I'm basically doing is I'm forcing a lowercase first character, and I'm just checking if it's the letter A. Because if it is, then we'll say ax, player chose ax. So now what we need to do is we need to handle, like, what does that mean if they choose an ax? Let's set a weapon name variable, and that's going to equal ax. Oops. Let's set a player accuracy. Let's set it equal to 50. So it's a 50-50 shot if they choose the ax. Let's say the player damage low equals 10, and player damage high equals 16. So what I've done here is with all these variables, now I'm kind of making something specific to that player's choice. So I have a name for that particular weapon. I have its accuracy stored just for that weapon. And then that weapon is going to deliver either 10 to 16 points of damage. So you can already think about where maybe I'm going to put this in my code in the player's attack. So that takes care of the ax. Now let's do elif weapon choice 0 dot lower. If that is equal to, what was my other one? Sword. So lowercase s. So in this case, we'll say player chose sword, and weapon name equals sword. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna copy and paste this code. Looks like I have a typo here. Weapon. And this player accuracy, I chose 80, more accurate, but less damage. So 3 and then 10. That's what I chose. We need elif weapon choice 0 dot lower is equal to m, and that means that the player chose mace. We'll copy this code, paste it, and let's see, this is going to be a mace. The player accuracy is 70. I chose kind of a middle of the road number, and I said this is from 8 to 10. Okay, and what's cool about this is that the player isn't going to see these numbers. You don't want to necessarily say them. You want to add some element of surprise, or well, that's your choice, I suppose. For me, I think it's kind of cool to keep it mysterious and just leave this like more power, more accurate, more moderate. I didn't even notice that before. Yeah, I just think it's fine to leave it like this for my own personal preference. So now we have to consider, we always have to think about the user and think that the user is, well, to put it lightly, dumb, right? They're going to try and break this thing. They're going to try to, they might accidentally break this thing, maybe not on purpose, but we have to think about what could the user type in. And if they type in something other than something that begins with an A, an S, or an M, we need to be prepared for that. Otherwise, the computer breaks or the program breaks, and that's no fun. So let's make an else statement that just captures any other input. And what we'll say is, let's tell the user print that is not a valid choice, and then we're going to print you will enter battle with a toothbrush. Good luck. And now what we'll do is we'll set those weapon characteristics with a toothbrush. Serves them right for not following instructions. So they have a toothbrush. Now, the thing about a toothbrush, though, is it is incredibly accurate. And that toothbrush is a 90% accuracy, but it only delivers between 1 and 3 points of damage. Okay, so that was a whole lot. I've put in all of this code so that I can account for different types of weapon choices, but I haven't actually done anything with these yet, right? It's not enough just to make these if statements. I need to now build into my code how to handle all that stuff. So, I mean, what I guess what I'm saying is we still have this player accuracy and this player accuracy from before, which is why it's nice that we use that player accuracy variable. But I need to account for those different types of damage now. The damage is different depending on if I used an axe or a sword or a mace. Right now, if I ran this, the only thing that would change is the accuracy. So I'm going to have to change how I handle the damage. And I might even change how I attack, since I have these different weapon names. So another thing that I might do is I'm going to get rid of the player accuracy up here, since that is now handled elsewhere. And what I'll do is now inside of this attack, let's change the things I need to change. So right now, so I'm just looking through my answer key here. Let's change the print statement for the attack. So instead of just saying player attacks enemy, let's say player attacks enemy with, and then say what the weapon is that we're attacking with. So we're going to add the weapon name. Okay, and that's good. We've added the weapon name. And now what we'll do is now we have to handle the damage. So I still want the damage to be calculated by a random number. But now this random number, it's not always going to be from 2 to 10. It's going to be based upon that weapon. And so that's why when we created the the damage variables, we have a damage low and a damage high. And it looks like these are all misspelled. Great. So I got to fix these. So H-I-G-H is how you spell that word. Let me fix these, fix those. Good thing I caught that. Okay, so now what I'll do is in my damage calculation, I'm going to basically create the bounds player damage low is my low number, and my high number is player damage high. So these numbers will be different based upon whatever the user typed in for their choice of weapon. The rest should work, right? Because I'm still calculating the enemy HP based upon that damage, and that damage is based upon whatever the player did, or whatever the player damage low and player damage high is. So that part should not change at all. And at this point, I should be ready to test this thing out. So let's do it. Let's run the code. What is your name? Mr. Fritz. Who is your enemy? Evil Twin. So now I can choose. Let's go with axe. You'll notice I can type in actually anything I want because I'm only looking at that first character. So that's a clever trick for programmers to do. So excellent, prepare for battle, press enter. So Mr. Fritz attacks Evil Twin with axe, lands a hit, 16 points, awesome. Evil Twin misses. Mr. Fritz misses with the axe. We got a lot of missing going on here, and which would make sense because it's kind of 50-50. The Evil Twin hits. Not looking good for Mr. Fritz. And it looks like I landed a blow there, and it looks like everything's working. Now let's actually try making sure that all the other weapons work. So I could type in sword. That works. Attacks with sword. Good. Let's try attacking with the mace. And then we'll say mace. Attacks with mace. Great. Now let's see that if the toothbrush thing works. So my name is A, enemy is B. We're going to type in, not something with A. Let's type in, not something with that either. Jab, 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 jab. It's not a valid choice. You'll enter battle with a toothbrush. Great. Hey, I attacked with a toothbrush. Good. So this is all working. This was kind of an extensive experience here. We added a lot of different elements to our code. Just to kind of recap, we gave the user the ability to choose a weapon. We handled that choice by just looking at what the first letter is of whatever word they typed in. And then we modified all these attributes based upon what the user typed in. We used those same attribute names, the weapon name, the player accuracy, and the player damage high and low, all built into the player's turn where they're attacking that enemy. So this game is now a little bit more interesting, right? If the player wants to win, they might have to think carefully about what they would want to use. And you can see how this can already build into adding different enemies, different strength to different enemies. Maybe certain weapons work better against other enemies. And this could be something that really grows into an exciting game.